episode 6 of the G3X Podcast. Hope you guys are super excited. In this episode, I specifically talked with Gloria. She talked about her journey when it came to getting into running, as well as certain things with respect to content creation and social media, and even certain side hustles and business. So this is a very fun episode. You definitely don't want to skip it. I hope you guys are excited. Check it out. Welcome everyone. We have here the G3X Podcast, episode 6, where it's all God, Gym, Grind, Unfiltered. We have a special guest here, Gloria. We have a lot of fun stories to tell from her background in fitness, in, let's say, her running background, and so many other things that we have there, coffee addict, and so much more fun stuff that we have there to talk about. It's going to be a super, super fun one. Gloria, thank you so much for being here. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's definitely excited, and thank you for saying yes. I know it's going to be super fun. You know, for the audience, Gloria and I, we in a sense digitally met through Threads, and then connected it in Instagram. And now here we are. It's like our first time actually having like a, let's say, face-to-face conversation. Everything's been through social, but I love her background. She has some amazing stories to tell, which is why I wanted to have her as a guest. So I was super honored when she said yes. And so to give a little background, Gloria, for the audience, introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and we take it from there.
Sweet. So my name is Gloria, like you said. Currently based out of Colorado. I've been here for 7-8 years after I got out of the military. I was stationed in Texas for the longest, which, the military, that was like a whole experience. But when I moved out here, I actually started on social media, and I actually had like a little small business, and somehow that kind of turned into cosplaying and running, and now I'm just kind of all over the internet.
No, I love that. I remember when you did that post the other day on Instagram, like introducing yourself, like, snap, I need to update some of the questions I had planned to ask her for the podcast because there's so much I didn't even realize myself. So it was super cool. No, that's awesome. So to start off, just with that intro, there's so much there that we can discuss, but let me actually ask you then, from, let's say, that military background to then moving from Texas to Colorado, as you mentioned, et cetera, what did that maybe just intrigue me? Did that have some type of spark into your fitness journey? Were you already in like fitness back then, or how did that whole like?
So when I was in the military, I was actually like pretty big on yoga, and I feel like, how you see trends on social media. So I feel like at the time, yoga was trending upward, and I saw it and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And at first it started off with like, well, I just want to post pretty pictures like everyone else. Then it kind of turned more into, well, I have to practice this and do this every day in order to like really, be good at it. And so then that kind of fell off after I got out of the military because I focused on school. I went to college and, life. I met a guy, got married, did all that. And that fitness side, it just never really left. It was there and it kind of like maybe fell off for a little bit, but something would inspire me to get back into it.
Okay, nice. No, that's super cool. And so, yeah, I remember you mentioned then in the post, just basing off of that, like how you've been running consistently, let's say for the past like about 9 months and so forth. So taking that, like ultimately what then inspired you that, okay, that chapter, let's say you mentioned military and everything, starting family, et cetera, all that. And then let's say what inspired you therefore to like start, let's say 9 months ago, get back into that running game consistently. And how has that helped you in that regards these past 9 months?
Well, last year for Mother's Day, I told my husband that what I want for Mother's Day is I want to go to this run club. It's just a local run club. And I did. And you know what? It was awful, but it was great. And so what I mean is that it's Colorado and the weather here is it's so hit or miss. And we got there, it was raining. It was awful. I was not working out at the time. So they're like, we're doing a 5K. I was literally the last person. I didn't even really know where I was going because everybody had already finished. And and I just remember being like soaked. I had a poncho but you know what? The people there, everybody, my experience was so nice. So it was awful in that regard, but it was really nice. And they held a giveaway. And actually I ended up winning a pair of Lululemon shoes, like running shoes. And I was like, well, since I got running shoes, I'm going to kind of like get into it. So I did that. And then I signed up for a race that was 6 months out as a way to keep me inspired to continue being consistent, right? So once I started really getting into my training, 2-3 months, I kind of just was like, actually, you know what? I really like this. I like this. You know what? Now it's become like a part of my life, and I don't think I could ever go back to not doing it anymore.
No, I love that. You see, because it's so cool. And with the past podcasts I've been doing, getting to hear people's story, which is so cool. There's always that thing that they just, even myself, my own stories, like we're all is similar in that aspect. We start something, okay, just to see how it goes or just to try it. Yeah. And then eventually it turns like you just went into a lifestyle that it just becomes part of you. And I think that's the beauty of fitness, right? Because it kind of creeps up unexpectedly on basic, I guess, all of us in some way, shape, or form. And so that's cool. I remember myself, years ago, my cousin, he was actually training to be in the Marines, right? And he got into Marines, like for like many years I didn't see him, came back. Like, I think he finished it always confused me how that military things work, but I know there's like a certain amount that you're there and then you're like done unless they call you back or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah. So so he was gone for a while. Then he came back. And even though he came back, he still had that habit. I would see him like sometimes I would go visit him and he would like be super disciplined, especially in his running, like always in his running. And me and him when young, we were like pretty competitive, like in different aspects of like sports or this. We were always competitive with each other, basketball, especially. We played a lot of basketball together. And so seeing him run and I'm like, and I didn't run back then. And I was always like a skinny, slim dude. And seeing him like great, like jacked and everything compared to like before he left all those years ago, etc. And I was like, nah, heck no, he's not going to beat me. And that's what I said. So then I started running, honestly, he was like a motivation for me that got me into running. And then fast forward that many years later, which then led me to like getting into my own fitness journey, weightlifting and everything. But there's definitely something about running, mind you, once I got like deep into the weights and gym, I didn't run as much like outdoors. It was more maybe machines or like even switched it lately to like ellipticals or stair step. But let's say during Christmas, that since all the gyms were closed, at least in our area, I was like, you know what? Let me go for a run. And because I hadn't done it in a while. So there's this track, it was around 2 miles or so. So I ran that. Look, I'm like, okay, I'm a little out of shape in that regard. Cause I was like almost dying once I reached the 2 miles, but I did the full thing. I'm like, I used to do this easily. I'm going to do the whole thing no matter what. So I did the whole thing. And there's definitely that sense of something about running, that air in your lungs outdoors and something. And just that the type of, let's say, exhaustion after a run that just feels different versus any kind of weightlifting or anything. And for you, I would say it's even more astounding because you're in the cold and that's like even tougher. How do you handle that?
You know what? It's so funny that you say that because so actually I used to live in Florida. So I feel like I understand where you're coming from, like I lived in Florida for 13 years. So I get that. But after running here and running in the cold, it's really like, I feel like your body adjusts. Your body is just so resilient. So when I first moved here, 40 degrees, like that is freezing. And 30 degrees. And I'm like, that's shorts and a tank top. And I'm going out there and it just feels good. I feel like a dog in the car and then how they stick their head out the window and they're like, oh, yeah. It just feels good. Like it feels good because I don't know, I get really hot when I'm running, but it's good weather.
Nice. No, that's cool. That's cool. And let me ask you, I know you also mentioned that you were, I believe, also like training for like a marathon and so forth. So how was that? How has that been? What has been the most like challenging part so far of the prep? How was like that whole experience?
It's a lot, to be honest, because so sometimes like I signed up for the marathon. It's May of this year, right? And I did this last year. And at first I was like really like motivated. I'm like, super high energy. Like this is going to be awesome. And then I'm like looking at the plan, right? And I'm like, this is a lot. Like, why did I do this?
Because, no regret.
Yeah. A little bit of regret because it's like up until this point, I have only really done like 5Ks. Every once in a while, I'll do a 10K. I feel like there's in the running community, like stuff is broken. Like people can, run whatever distance they want, but it usually seems like people have a certain distance and that's where they like to stay, right? I like a 5K. I will die for 25 minutes and then be done. You know what I mean? Instead of running for 4 or 5 hours and dying for 4 or 5 hours. So, but other than that, my training has definitely increased. I was injured for a little bit, so I didn't take time off. I did physical therapy. I did some strength training. I'm still currently doing strength training, but I basically run 4 times a week. I do strength training 2 times a week. And I also do Pilates just because I enjoy like yoga and Pilates. But that nutrition is always like one of my biggest struggles because I just don't eat enough of the right things. And sometimes I'm not hungry. So, but nutrition is definitely a struggle as far as that. But it's a lot.
But I'll bet you look back after you do the marathon and you'll be like, okay, it was worth it. Regardless of outcome, you're like, it's just the whole process, I guess, that journey to actually do it. You're like, you know what? Looking back, it was hell, but it was worth it. I bet there were no regrets after.
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't regret anything now. Like, I think that this marathon training has really just been a good experience for me. And I feel like it's also kind of healing me, both mentally and physically. I feel like physically, I'm going to be 35 this year, in my mid 30s. Like, I mean, I look like it, but I'm starting to get up there. And I feel like as far as, being fit, this is the most I've been fit outside of being in the military, where you have no choice. You're going to work out, and mentally, I feel like I've learned things about me that I didn't even know, like my mental strength, just things I never would have thought that I could do and accomplish. I'm learning about myself. When I was going into marathon training, I'm looking at like, this is 10, 15 miles that it wants me to run. And in the back of my head, I'm like, that's a lot. I don't know if I can do that. I'm going to try, I'm going to attempt, but I don't know if I can do that. And the more I do it and the more consistent I am, now I'm looking at it from a new perspective. And now I'm like, wow, I really can run 10 miles. I really can run 15. And now I feel like I'm finally building the confidence to be like, well, I really can run 26 miles. So it's definitely not anything that I regret. I don't know if I'll do another marathon after this one. We'll see on that. But as far as right now, I'm excited and I'm looking forward to it.
It's one for the books for sure.
Yeah.
No, let me say, and I like how you mentioned that, like some certain doubt. We've all experienced that for sure. And what would you say to, again, anyone listening to this, that any advice you can give them, whatever they may be facing, be it maybe they're also thinking of some kind of race, maybe it's their 5K or a 10K or let's say a marathon or anything else that in their fitness journey that they may be facing, doubting themselves, maybe not wanting to start, and you having, in a sense, been in a situation like that and overcome it. What would you tell the audience, like a piece of advice that helped you, that hopefully also helps them too?
Just be consistent. I feel like consistency is the key. I feel like a lot of people, even myself, I'll start something, doesn't matter what it is, fitness, anything, and I'll give up too early. I'll give up before I finally start seeing results. The thing with running is that you have to build a foundation. You have to build a base. I would not tell a gym girly or a gym bro to go to the gym and just bench 150. I would not give you that advice. So I wouldn't tell someone who's looking to getting into running that, they should run 20 miles a week. Start small and just do it over time. Be consistent over time. And eventually, when you look back in 6 months from now, you'll be so surprised with how much progress you've made.
I love that. And for that, what you said, and that applies, I would say, definitely everywhere in life. Let's say, of course, in fitness, be consistent, show up every day, your body gets stronger over time, you build resistance, you build, strength and so forth, discipline, which that then translates into other areas of life. But let's say both of us in the whole content creation space, right? We hear that so much, we're both on Threads a lot. And so we see that a lot of it is like, let's say copy paste threads, which I know I know you know what I mean by that. But at the same time, it's like, it's not, they're not wrong in the sense of like, it is just coming down to just, let's say, being consistent. Let's say being consistent in the content you create or being consistent in your progress in your journey. Because exactly, the more reps you put in, just like in the gym, and I think it's the best example, the more reps you put in, the more your muscle gets used to it, where you can start lifting more. So the same thing with running, the more consistent you stay at running, or the more consistent you stay at, creating content, etc., you get better. And exactly 6 months ago, let's say both of us, I'm sure we can look back 6 months ago from, let's say, both gym or fitness or content. From then to now, we're like, you know what? We're definitely better. And we only want to keep getting better. So that's definitely, I think, something that I wish everyone listening to this can definitely capture is, hey, be always consistent. It might sound cliche, but the reality is if it works, you know, it's like squats and bench. They're like the most classic exercises in all of gym. And why do they work? Because they work, you know, don't fix what ain't broken. And it's the same thing with that whole consistency concept. It really boils down to just being consistent, because the more reps you put in, the better you get. And I wanted to ask you there too, in that aspect of consistency, relating it back to running, especially anyone here listening who is a runner, wants to get better at running. Something I know when I would run a lot too myself, that how would you manage, let's say, or tips, advice between that distance and pace, right? Because you can't really have, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Something right. I would struggle myself. I don't know why, because I always wanted distance and pace. And it's like, hey, it really doesn't work like that. And so how did you, let's say, find, if that's the correct term to you, let's say, find your, let's say, balance, or your, let's say, you know, what you preferred? Was it like distance over pace, or, you know, how did you like figure it out in a sense? Those that are also struggling with like, oh no, you know what? I don't want to continue. I can never keep up, and like running sucks, or I'm not a good runner, whatever that means, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I would say I probably, if I had to pick like distance or pace, I would probably pick pace, and not for the reasons why I feel like most people would think. So let me back up just a tad bit. So I started off with a smartwatch. Doesn't matter, Apple, you know, whatever, take your pick of the many, you know, smartwatches that they have out there. I started off with Garmin, and when I started running, I knew what pace was, you know, it's your speed, but I didn't know what that felt like to me. So I think learning what your pace feels like to you, like, so for me, I know like I can run an 11-minute mile. Like I can do that for 15 miles, 20 miles, and that it's still work, but it's easier. Now, if I'm trying to run a 740 per mile, that's fast for me. Yeah. And that's a lot of work for me. I'm going to be sweating. It's going to be hard for me to talk. I'm not going to be able to have a conversation like this. So I try to decide on my workout. So like Mondays are my long run days. So usually I try to keep a moderate pace where I'm not moving too slow, which would be 11, and I'm not going super fast either. I just try and keep it moderate. So I definitely think that going in as a runner, and I know some people are like, you know, the watch is too much, because a lot of people will overly, you know, focus on their pace, and your pace, it's not that important, but it's good to know what you're moving at. Also too, when you look back, you know, 6 months ago, I know that I'm moving faster per this mile. You know, some people do value distance, and I feel like, and this isn't a me thing, but like if I was running ultras, you know, and I'm running 50, 100 miles, you know, I would value distance more than I do pace. But I like to sprint, and I like to see those numbers, and I like to see like where I'm at and kind of like, you know, look back. So for me, definitely pace.
And I would say then definitely, like you said, it ultimately comes down to like trying it and seeing what works for you, like, you know, feeling what pace is. Because it's true, you know, I remember when I first started and hearing pace is like 8, you're like a pace of 8, you know, like, oh, okay, that sounds easy. Like, I don't even know what that, but until you try, like, holy crap, this thing is like pretty fast, like, especially when you're first starting out and not having that endurance, etc. So I think it definitely comes down, having something that helps track. And I would say it works even better. You tell me your opinion. Definitely, I think it's much better actually running versus like the treadmill pace running, because I feel it's maybe a slightly deceiving in my opinion. Mind you, I would run a lot on the treadmill before, so that's why I say it, because I would put it, let's say, at 7.5. Usually I would put the treadmill at 8, and then I would run. Back then when I was like super good, like super not, I would put it at 8, and I was able to run 2.25 miles for that whole 8, and it took me, according to the treadmill, like 15 minutes or so. But then when I went to like physically run, I'm like, yo, like, why is it much harder to keep up that pace? And so that's when I realized, you know what, it's much better like physically running versus treadmill running. Or give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I know that there's a big debate between the two. And personally, I can't stand the treadmill. All right. And I'm going to tell you why. Not for, how most people, my thing with the treadmill is that the treadmill sets the pace for you. Okay. When I go outside and let's say my workout says I need to run 2 miles at 9 minutes and 30 seconds per mile, right? I have to hit those paces, there's no set and I am one of those runners that if I'm feeling good, sometimes I got the music on and I'm feeling good in that mile and, I'm going and I'm not even thinking about it. And it's just like, I'm a machine and I'm just going and I'm going. And then on the treadmill, it is the same way, but it's basically controlled the pace for you. So I don't know. Every run I've ever done, there's always times in there in half a mile, quarter mile where I speed up a little bit, I slow down. I'll look at my thing. Oh, I need to speed up a little bit. Oh, I need to slow down. I'm overdoing it or whatever. So that's my issue with the treadmill specifically. That, and I feel like I don't know how to run on it. I know that sounds like so weird and awkward, but I feel like when, the treadmill's going like this way, and I feel like when I'm running on it, like, I don't know how far do I put my leg out. Like, it's just weird. Like, I feel awkward on it.
I know what you mean there, because sometimes this happened to me. I'm like, wait, it's hard to explain, but I know exactly what you mean. Because I found myself...
do I need to speed up in order, the machine in order for me to, I don't know, but... Yeah,
because you don't want to either go too forward and then you hit the front part of the treadmill and fall off or something like that. You get me? So it's like, oh my God. But for me, sometimes it would happen when I'm on the treadmill for whatever reason. Rarely, it doesn't happen anymore, but sometimes at the beginning, your shin, the little front part, it would kind of start feeling super tight as I was starting to run. It was super weird. And then I'm halfway in my run and my shins are super tight. I'm like, yo, I can't even run anymore. But actually running actually outside, it was never, it was perfectly fine. So I'm like, what's up with that? I never figured that one out, but it was super weird. But no, definitely, I think that's for me, I know after a while, and that's why I only stuck to 2 miles, because I always wanted to run. I always wanted to do more, but then pretty personally, I was just like, yeah, I'm bored. I got bored at the treadmill, just there, just, let me go to a park, go to a park or something. Then it's at least more engaging. And it's true what you said with the music. Sometimes the music is smacking, you feel like Sonic, and you're like, yeah. And then other times you're wow, where is it? And you just keep skipping tracks and it's not that moment at that point.
I hate to admit this, but I'm one of those people that if I really am enjoying a song, I'll just put it on repeat for an hour and a half during my run.
Same. Okay, finally someone is in agreement with me. I've done that so many times where then my Spotify recap at the end of the year or something, because I could be stuck with one song for many months if it's that good. Yeah. And 100. So then my Spotify recap will be your number one song. I'm like, oh, damn, that was for those 4 months that I just overplayed that song and it just stuck as number one because I haven't heard it since those 4 months. Because then you're like, oh, now another song is smacking for you type stuff. Yeah. That's too funny. So let me ask you the following now. So love the whole journey with running and everything. Super awesome. Going into, let's say, some balancing life topics in this case. I know you mentioned you're married, you have kids. And so how do you do that balance of, family, picking up your kids from, let's say, school, husband, meals, running, the gym, your content? Because I'm like, holy crap, I don't know, I always find it, especially moms, and I speak because I see my mom. It's how do you manage? I remember when much younger back in college and so forth, since I didn't have a car. So she was she would do her errands and pick me up, then go back home, then have to do other errands. She's like, oh Lord, I'm like, and she would always have the time for everything. I'm like, how do you guys manage? So how do you manage that whole same kids, family, fitness, everything else you got going on?
I feel to be honest, every day is its own struggle in some way. But, for the most part, I feel everything is pretty scheduled, when the kids go to school, when they come home. I try to prep as many things as I can, the night before, lunch, laundry, that. I also try to limit my, I'll say, content creation and social media stuff, unless it's for me, for my personal enjoyment, on the weekends. So it's kind of I have the weekends off. I will still 100% post if I have something to post, but I always try to batch create my content. So I do a lot of cosplaying, and I'll take like one day out of the week, and it's not a full day, like usually a morning or afternoon. I'll schedule it in there somewhere. It'll take like 4 or 5 hours, and I'll just record like 15 videos, and then I will spread that out throughout the week so that this way all I have to do is go in, add hashtags, and it's just one less thing to think about. So I always try to prep in that way when it's social media, family. But obviously, I do live in the moment, and I'm not going to lie. Like, I would say personally, I have a lot of social media platforms. So it's a lot because, because you're always on social media, that it's not good enough anymore for you to just post your stuff and ghost. Post and ghost is what I call it. You can't just post your stuff and then leave. You have to post your stuff and then talk to your community. That's one thing that I will say will be the death of any content creator, is if you just post your stuff and act like you're just going to have a million fans in your comments. It's not going to happen. I mean, it could. Don't get me wrong. I've seen some people that, hey, you know what? They had some great, awesome content, but it's just few and far in between. So I always just try to set myself up, plan as much as I can. And, I'm not going to lie. There's some days that, I'm not on that app that day, and I just don't have time for it. I mean, I always, scroll real quick and, put a couple likes if I can, or whatever. But there's also a lot of times where, just the other day, I'm making my kids some lunch and I'm like, hashtag cosplay, hashtag, so there's a lot of times where I'm like multitasking too, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I think that having that balance is always something that I really will struggle with, but not in the bad way that it's like over consuming me and taking away from my life.
Nice. I like how you mentioned that. And let's say with your family there, let's say husband or kids, how are they with, let's say, either your fitness journey or even like your cosplay? Have they ever been like interested in like getting into like, let's say, running or fitness, or now like help you? Hey, mom, try this, outfit on or something. I don't know, just curious there, like on that regards.
Yeah. So I think my family thinks that what I do is very interesting, especially because some of the cosplays that I do, I like to cosplay like demons and like evil. And so sometimes it'll be 2:00 in the morning and I have like full face paint on.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And so I'm sure, especially like my husband's mom sometimes is like, whoa. But no, they're, honestly, truly am beyond blessed with my family that they're so supportive. My husband has shown up with the kids at the finish line with the stroller, rooting me on and stuff, gotten up early, taking me to run clubs. And just the most support. And you know what? This is so funny. I'll mention this. So the other day, when you go do your runs, they give you like a little bib number or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had one, and, it was from like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or whatever. And I was actually I did throw it in the trash. I was like, oh, this is done. So I just threw it in the trash because it's like sitting on our kitchen counter. I threw it in the trash. And Brian's mom was like, oh no, we're not doing that. And she pulled it back out of the trash. And I was like, why? I don't need it anymore. It's trash. Like, it's no big deal. Like, I have a medal. Like, it's good. And she was like, oh, no. I'm collecting them. So I'm like beyond blessed to have a mother-in-law, a father-in-law, my whole entire family, the kids, everybody to just be beyond supportive when I was running a business, my social media, taking pictures for me, cosplay, photo shoots, financially supporting everything. Like, I know that not everybody has that. Truly, I couldn't ask for a better support system.
No, that's beautiful. And I think that's awesome because it definitely, of course, we always hear that, hey, don't worry about what other people think. And that's especially true when it comes to like external. Even sometimes I know some people have to sometimes ignore the noise from like close members because they're just not supportive, which sucks. But when they do support, I think that's the most beautiful thing ever, because then you're just in an environment where, you feel, let's say, comfortable to create what you want to create that feels genuine to you versus trying to hide it or so forth. And then it might not feel as authentic with the content. Now, I'm blessed the same here with like the G3X Fitness. Same thing with like my parents and my sisters, all supporting, and then meeting other people that we haven't ever met, like in person, same thing through socials and so forth, and like super supportive and everything of the sort of like either posting, sharing. This is like, it's super cool, when you definitely have that like authentic support. So I'm with you there. So that's awesome. I love it. I mean, I've seen both like your cosplays there through TikTok and your running, and I think it's super dope. I mean, super, super cool. Like some of the character I'm not as familiar with, but it's like the way you do like the whole outfits, etc., and the makeup. I'm like, that you can tell you really put effort into it, because it's like, holy crap, she really looks like a totally different person. Like she really looks like the character she's trying to like represent, which is super cool. Definitely super cool. But let me ask you then the following then, as you mentioned there with the whole business. I know you did recently mention how you were working in working on some outfits as like a seamstress, if I'm not mistaken. Is that like the recent, let's say, like business that you're starting, or let me get that little entrepreneurship out of you on that?
Yeah. So, well, let me back up a little bit. Okay. So what really started my whole social media journey was, I used to make things out of resin, and I would just mix up the resin, and I bought these molds and I started sharing my stuff online. And then someone was like, hey girl, like, I want to buy that. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and then it turned into me making sales like every single day. And I would post every single day. And then I started teaching people how to do this. After a while, I kind of just didn't want to do it anymore. I mean, I just didn't want to do it anymore. The market was getting like oversaturated, and why buy something from me when, you can literally make the same thing at your house, and like I'm teaching how to do it. So I just kind of like put a pause on that. It just wasn't making me happy and fulfilling me the way it was before. And that's totally fine, because I wasn't doing it for the money, but I built this community, and that's where that started. Now, because I will say I'm a creator at heart. Like whether it's me doing resin or cosplay or whatever, like I just enjoy creating things. Not last year, the year before that, I started really getting into cosplay. And then I found this whole new world of like cosplay competition. And what do you know? I entered one, and the rules depends on which competition is, but basically you have to make at least 50 to 60% of the cosplay yourself, whether it's out of whatever material you're working with or whatever. And so anyways, my mother-in-law had a sewing machine, and, it's free. I went and got some fabric, and I went on YouTube and looked up, and I just put this stuff together. And yeah, I started making and sewing my own cosplays, which buying it, sewing it, I mean, they're still like really expensive any way you want to look around it. I've had people ask me if I do commissions, and currently don't, because I feel like I'm still a beginner. Like I'm still learning how to sew. I can sew pants. I can sew a shirt. I can take a character's outfit and sew it, but I just don't feel like it's good enough to be sold, So I'm just doing it for me at this point, and I'm sewing my things and just entering them into competitions just because that's what makes me happy right now.
Now, do you see yourself maybe in the future when you get, let's say, more confidence of yourself, or if maybe someone really pushes you like, hey, I want to buy this, sell it to me, that you'll see yourself maybe like doing that for like a business type? Or
I think at some point in time last year, if you had asked me that, I would say 100% absolutely. But I think right now, I don't really want to own a business. Like, and let me backtrack. It's not that I don't want to own a business. I don't want to own a business where I am the sole creator. I wouldn't mind doing like, I don't know, a drop shipping or something like that. But when you are the creator of a product, if there's any little flaw, if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, it's just a lot of work. Also, too, commissions for a cosplay, because of the amount of time, because it's not like just manufactured like through like a machine and process, it's so much more expensive. So when I commission things from other people, I commission something that you can't buy. There's some outfits and some cosplays from different cartoons and anime shows or whatever that you can look up all you want online, but they're just not out there because it's just so niche. They have the name brand stuff, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, all the name brand stuff. You can find that online. But if you like something that's kind of out there, just even a little bit, that's what I would commission from somebody else, or I would just try to make it. But
I see. No, that's cool though. No, but at least you have your own little, let's say, niche that you like to do, and I think that's what makes it unique and fun. And it's something that you like. That's the most important stuff. And I think the audience can find value in that. Like, hey, she was initially doing something there, like with the resin and so forth, that you did like initially, and then you transitioned to something new because you kind of like lost that, let's say, love for it. And I think that's perfectly fine. That's life. It ebbs and flows. And I know a lot of people sometimes might be scared to stop doing something for whatever reason. Maybe for whatever reason, they just are scared of like going into something new because, oh, what if they fail, or what if they get made fun of, whatever.
It's
but
hard.
Yet they still stay. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to stop doing something that you've been doing for so long. Like I had built a whole studio attached to our house to do this. Light, desk, everything for me to create and to teach people. And so it was a big decision to be like, well, and I'm not saying that I will never go down that road again, because I enjoy creating. I just wasn't really enjoying so much of some of the business side of it. I would have some people, they would like order for me, and then I would ship out the order and they'd be like, well, actually, I don't want it anymore. Then I'm like, okay, well, now as a businesswoman, I have to make a decision. Do I just say, okay, well, I'll refund you your money and let you keep the product because I already shipped it? Or am I going to try and negotiate and be like, well, actually, I need you to ship me the product back and I will subtract the shipping because, what's going on with that? So, I mean, it's just those things that if I ever were to run a business again, I would want someone to fill that position. I could be the CEO, but I would want someone to handle those small fires that I don't want to deal with. The
admin side of things. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, so it seems like you're good in the business side, but it's just having someone, that external person, admin, to kind of run that admin side of things, that you focus more on the creator. Because that's perfectly fine. I think in business, that's where people, when you get into the entrepreneurship, you find yourself, what are you good at? What are you not good at? And, you either have the choice, okay, try to get good at what you're not good at. But if you really, 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 really don't like it, then try to find someone that you can hire or someone that can work with you to do that you don't like. And then that's how you ultimately start like growing the business and so forth. Same with myself, like within, let's say, G3X Fitness, my old job where I used to be at, where I was my position, my old job was like as a managing director. So I was like right after the owner, it was me. So I had to like oversee a lot of things. And that opened my eyes to like, okay, I love business, but there's definitely a lot of behind the scenes that I really don't like. Let's say and something I need to work on when it comes to like talking with people, like sitting with one-on-one with like workers and be like, hey, you're kind of underperforming, like I realized, okay, I'm trash at that. I don't even know how to say it, or like, I don't even know how, like, oh my God, I'm horrible at that. And so you start realizing, but, put me to do something else, like create certain type of structures or automations or plans, like, got you covered in that. You find ultimately your strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's definitely a beautiful side of entrepreneurship, because you kind of like find who you really are. Because, right, we all think, oh yeah, we got this, we can do this. And, everyone comes with that attitude until you're faced with like that wall down the line. Like, okay, how are you going to overcome this wall? How are you going to break down this wall? And you're like, oh crap, you know what? I'm not as good as I thought, but then that's how you get better. So I like how you mentioned that. Let me ask you though, with the whole cosplay thing, what would be your favorite character to cosplay and in that regards?
You know what? I feel like I have so many, just because I only cosplay characters that I really enjoy, that I really love, or I connect with on some type of level. But probably my Ketra is like one of my favorites, and Korra. I think those two are probably the ones that I'm probably at least more well known for.
Okay, nice. Now let me ask you, and for the most part then, most of your like characters are like always anime inspired, or would they be from other types of genres or anything of that sort that inspires you in that case?
I started off with anime. I have slowly, very slowly, opened and progressed into cartoons and fantasy. It's been a slow progression, but I feel like a lot of people are like really well versed in anime. And so, I won't say like I pick any cosplays like for other people, but I also try to pick ones that I will enjoy, and also to the people that follow me will enjoy seeing me in those too. So anime just seems like it's bigger up there, but I do
That's fair,
do
yeah.
enjoy it all. There's no real preference.
And off topic a little bit, but then let's say Cora, I'm not as familiar. Like I know some anime, but I'm not like that deep into it, even though I watch a lot of it actually. But that one I'm not as familiar. Would that be like your favorite anime show then? Or do you have like a separate anime? Like, okay, no, this would be like my top favorite anime show.
Ooh, I really like Sailor Moon because I grew up watching that. Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing, like I grew up watching all of those things. But I like Inuyasha. I like Fairy Tail. I just enjoy anime. I mean, it's all good for different reasons. And I like different genres too. Like, you know, I like the romance ones. I also like, you know, hey, Dragon Ball Z, they're just fighting, you know? We're just throwing punches, like.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm super weird in the sense that I'm like broad topic, you know, like I'll like some rom-com anime or like, you know, that action Dragon Ball Z, Demon Slayer, Death Note, you know, like I'm like everywhere. But since I like to like, okay, I don't want to spend too much time watching anime because I know I got so much other stuff I got to do. So maybe during the weekend, what I'll do is I'll put them at 2x speed with the little subtitle. I put them at 2x speed and then I'm like, okay, I have an hour. So then an hour, you know, if they're 20 minutes, it's like, it takes you 10 minutes. So then instead of watching just like 5 episodes at 20 minutes, I can watch like 10. So like, then I'm like woozing through all the different episodes. I'm like, okay, I caught up. I'm done with it. Okay, on to the next one. And everyone's
I'm about to try this.
And you know, so I was like 2x speed. And it's like, and the only time now, if it's like a super epic fight, I'm like, okay, hold up. Let me actually watch it 1x speed because I want to like enjoy the full like fight or animation. But for the most part, I'm at 2x speed and I'm just like zooming through all the episodes. And my friends are like, bro, what?
Hilarious.
And I'm like, shoot, I understand it. Like, even like it's in Japanese, but I have the, you know, English subtitles, but I'm able to read it and follow it. And I mean, you don't even know it. In my opinion, since I'm so used to it now, it's like, if anything, when I put it at normal speed, it feels too slow, which is like crazy because that's the normal speed. But yeah, try it. Let me know how it goes. But it's pretty.
Yeah.
If you want to binge watch quick, I mean, that's how I watch so many. If I were to tell you a list of all the different animes I watch, I'll tell you after the podcast. But if I were to tell you like all the lists I've seen, basically all of them have been like at 2x speed. And that's what just helped me to like watch a bunch.
Oh my gosh.
Even YouTube videos, like I watch tutorials sometimes, like CapCut tutorials or DaVinci Resolve tutorials or whatever, and I'll put them at 2x speed as well, just to kind of like go through it quicker. And if it's like, okay, hold up, let me go a little, if it's maybe a lot of information, I'll slow it down a little bit. But it just helps me just go through a bunch of content without spending as much time in a sense.
That's what I do on TikTok videos when they're talking, and I'm like, get to the point, man. Come on.
Yeah, facts. It comes in clutch. Yeah. Now, let me ask you the following a little bit, like now going into some like personal interests and hobbies. I know in some of theirs you mentioned, like, let's say you're a book lover. So what's kind of like some of your favorite topics there to read when it comes to books? Any recommendations to the audience out there that you're currently reading or really love to read often?
Yeah. So currently I'm reading From Blood and Ash, which is, I guess I'll say it's like a romantasy. So it's like a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of romance. It's kind of like smutty, like a little dirty, you know, you got a little like spice in there, you know what I mean? Which I enjoy that. Like, I don't want too much romance. And I mean, I don't think you can ever have enough fantasy, but those are the type of books I read. I started off with ACOTAR, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I kind of fell in love with that genre. And so now I just am like, you know what? These are pretty good. I started buying books like late last year and, you know, and like entering my whole book era or whatever. And then, you can't see it, but like I literally have a stack of books over here and I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore because I'm like a collector at heart. I don't know if you can see in the background, but like my husband and I, we like to collect things. So
that's awesome.
I'm like, I cannot collect books. Like I already collect Funkos. I can't collect books. So
one of my sister collects a bunch. If her room is like that, for the whole wall, but like Funko Pops and everything. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not collecting books. So I bought a Kindle and that's currently where I'm buying all my books from. Definitely From Blood and Ash is something I would recommend if you like romance and fantasy. It's It really
Nice.
is.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's so cool that you mentioned the Kindle, though, because recently a friend of mine, she's a runner too. She's actually in Mississippi. She runs a lot. I think her last one she did was, I think, like a 10K, and she got first place and everything. Her first 10K, she does a lot of like 5Ks and stuff, and she won. I'm like, oh, pretty cool. She recently getting into like back into reading books for this year. Same thing. She actually got herself a Kindle. She's already read like 6 or 8 books through her Kindle and everything.
Oh my gosh.
I hear that they're super convenient, and they're like, it's kind of like the grayscale, right? The grayscale, like the screen, so it helps you like not get as distracted, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, and it depends on which one you get, because they have ones that are color, but like mine's just a little like grayscale, and you know what? The books are cheaper. So like if you go to Barnes and Noble, say the book is $15, I'm only paying $6 for my book. So nice. I'm like, you know what? This isn't that bad. I still like to go to Barnes and Nobles because like who doesn't like to go to
even I like going there. Yeah, it's a vibe.
But yeah, so I mean,
that's cool. That's cool.
Little side hobby.
There you go. Beautiful. Now, let's say here into the fast forward here, like the dog mom life. I know one of the things there you mentioned, you have your little dog, Caesar, right? Is that his name? Caesar?
Yeah, Caesar.
Nice. Is that how many, let's say, I don't know if do you own multiple pets, or you prefer like one pet at a time, or how has that been in that sense?
So I have Caesar, and my mother-in-law has a lab. So we have 2 dogs, and then we have a cat. She's really moody, and she does not like me. It's not my cat. It's his mom's cat. She doesn't like me, and every time she sees me, she hisses at me. I really do like cats, so it's a little bit disappointing that she has this hate for me. But
have you ever scared her with like one of your cosplay outfits or anything? I'll be so tempted to do that.
I knocked on their door the other day, and I opened the door, and she was like, and I was like, I didn't do anything. Like, so, so this is the type of relationship. She just hates me. It kind of hurts my feelings a little bit, but yeah, he's a good boy. He's actually like kind of old, and it makes me a little sad because I always worry like how much more time I have with him. But yeah, I got him from a lady, and she just was like, I'm working a lot and I don't have a ton of time to like take care of him. I'm putting him in a kennel a lot, and yeah, he's really good, and he's been good with the kids. And I mean, it's funny because they like play around and stuff, and we actually have a really big backyard, so I know a lot of like runners will take their dogs like out on walks and stuff, but I just let him out in the backyard, and we have a dog run out there, and yeah.
Nice. That's cool. What breed
is living his best life.
Caesar's the lab, or?
He's a little Yorkie. He's like actually in the lab right now.
Oh yeah, no, I thought so because I saw you wearing like, oh, she's probably petting him or something. Cause then I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
He's
that's
like,
cool.
I know you guys are talking about me.
For me, I have a German Shepherd. Same thing. She's 11. So same thing. I'm like, I walk her daily because, you know, with German Shepherds, they have like the tendency of like arthritis as they get older. So so the vet was like, hey, you know, honestly, if it wasn't for the walks, she would be like way worse. So just keep walking her daily. That helps keep her active and so forth. But yeah, you know, they're family. They're basically family. Yeah. They're the family member that don't speak, you know, they just bark, but it's like if they were talking. The only thing they need to do, like my dog, for example, funny stories with my dog, like she's sometimes my second alarm. I always have an alarm on my phone, but like she sometimes she'll like go up to like my bed with her wet nose and like start smelling me, like it kind of starts like kind of crying, but that's like her sign. I'm like, hey, I'm bored, like take me out already, because she wants to go out. And I'm like, all right, Abby, let's go, you know, like, let's go outside. So it's pretty funny there. But no, I mean, definitely dogs are for me, I've had 2. Beagle, when we're much younger, and then this one, German Shepherd. And, you know, however many more years she may have, you know, keep taking care of her. But me personally, as much as I love dogs, I'm definitely a dog person for sure. I've had other pets, like my sisters have had some birds, like sun conures and Quakers. I used to have a fish, and I realized, I don't like, they're kind of boring pets. There's not much you can do with them. Like for me personally, it's like I find them boring. So like, I like a dog.
I totally feel you though on that, because I had a bird, I've had a fish, you know, like
they're kind of boring. Like what can you do with them? I mean, a bird maybe if you train them or kind of show cool little, maybe, but it's like they're small, and I tend to be I like to be in a little like a guy, kind of like rough in a sense. So it's like, okay, you can't be rough with a bird. You definitely can be rough with a fish. So at least with my dog, sometimes when much younger as a puppy, and I would kind of wrestle with her or like run around the whole backyard, and she would try chasing me, you know, like kind of like nipping at you, but like in a playful way to kind of like trip you up and so forth. Yeah. So like that. So like, okay, that's fun. But it's like, what can you do with like a fish or something? That's like, at least you get me.
No, I feel that. I don't want any type of animal, I think, other than a dog. And I really would like to get another dog, but maybe after when we sell this house and we get a bigger house
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
a bigger
Yeah.
backyard.
Yeah, sometimes my sister's like, hey, let's get another. I'm like, we could barely manage with one. You want to get a second one? Like, in a bigger house, maybe. We have a good sized backyard, but even so, it's like having two is like, oh my God. Double the baths, double everything. So like maybe later on.
Yeah.
No, I feel that. But no, Gloria, it's been super awesome having you truly on this, guys. It's been super fun. As the final, let's say, takeaway for the audience listening, I always like to do this with every one of my guests. What would be the, let's say, best piece of advice or takeaway you would give to the audience listening, be it in fitness, be it in running, be it in entrepreneurship, whatever topic that you want to leave them with? What would that be?
Do whatever is going to make you happy. Whatever that is. And even if that means like just trying something new, if you think it's going to make you happy, it's worth trying it. It's worth going for it, because there's nothing worse than getting to the end of your life and then looking back and wishing and thinking that you would have tried or could have done something, and maybe that would have worked out in a way that you didn't even expect. So whatever it is, try it, go for it, and just enjoy it.
There you guys go. Beautiful message. Well said. And with that, guys, that would conclude this episode of the G3X podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. It was super awesome. Again, Gloria, thank you so much for being here. It was super, super awesome. I hope the audience enjoyed it as well. Also, Gloria, if the audience wanted to find you on social media, what social medias are you on? Where can they find you?
I am basically on everything. I'm on every platform. I'm either at Hokage Gloria or Glow Runs It.
All right, beautiful. And I'll make sure then I'll link them in the description there. If you guys are listening to this on, let's say, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or even watching it on YouTube, I'll make sure I link this in the description below so you guys can like check her different social medias, give her a follow. She's super awesome. She posts a lot. I follow her on Threads and Instagram and TikTok as well. So, and YouTube. So like she said, she's literally everywhere. And so she always is posting awesome content. So give her some support. And no, again, Gloria, thank you so much once again. And again, appreciate it. So guys, give her a follow if you're listening to this. For us as well, if you maybe this is your first podcast listening to us or haven't heard of us, we're G3X Fitness. We're a fitness clothing brand, all focusing on that God, gym, grind mentality and that type of messaging. So you could always give us a follow, check out our merch, follow us on socials. We're also on every single platform you could think of, like literally. And so again, appreciate everyone. And that would be the end of this podcast. So peace out.